All right, now to a follow-up on our big story from last night. As Congresswoman Andrea Salinas told me, there is a silent surge of ICE activity in parts of Oregon, specifically Yamhill County in her district, where there are many immigrant farm workers. Now, when we asked ICE about an uptick in activity in our area, they responded by simply saying the Trump administration is enforcing the law by deporting criminal illegal aliens and defending the homeland. Okay, joining me now live is Gabe Espinal, an attorney at Safe Route Immigration, representing people with immigration needs, including many facing deportation. Mr. Espinal, thanks for coming on the show.
Good to be here, Claire.
All right, so speaking of that reported uptick in ICE activity happening in Yamhill County, what changes, if any, have you seen in recent weeks?
My colleagues at Safe Route have seen an increase in ICE activity in Yamhill County specifically, as many as 4 or 5 in July, whereas there hadn't been any in the previous more than 6 months, really. So there's definitely an increase in activity that my colleagues have observed.
Is this unique to Yamhill County, or are you seeing similar patterns elsewhere in Oregon?
At this point, it seems to be unique to Yamhill County, but I wouldn't rule it out, especially given the patterns that we've seen across the country with increased ICE activity.
Do you have any idea why Yamhill County is such a target?
I really couldn't say. A lot of our clients ask to know about some sort of pattern or something that could help them predict who's at most risk of ICE detention, and the pattern seems to be changing all the time, if it's there at all. So it's difficult to say.
So where are these encounters with ICE taking place? Where are you hearing? Are they happening at homes, where people work, at courthouses, traffic stops?
Yeah, interestingly, my colleagues have told me, the ones in Yamhill County have told me that they've happened for individuals coming back to their vehicles sometimes after doing like normal routines, going to the gym, going to work, whatever the case might be. And it's when they're returning to their parked cars, they've been arrested.
Okay, are people being arrested after scheduled immigration appointments, or do you think they're more targeted enforcement operations that are happening?
At least the ones I've heard of in Yamhill County specifically, haven't been connected with any sort of immigration appointment or anything like that. They've been happening just during people's day-to-day lives.
And can you tell me, who are your clients who are being detained? Are they people with criminal convictions, or are you seeing people with no criminal history?
In my experience, which isn't necessarily specific to Yamhill County, my clients who have been detained haven't had any criminal history at all. So that's just doesn't seem to be part of the equation that ICE is employing in the cases that I've seen.
What concerns, if any, do you have about how these operations are being conducted?
My concerns are, first of all, for the legal outcomes for my own clients, of course. And beyond that, though, it's creating an environment of fear for everyone, especially hearing that there's no pattern that people can predict to know how at risk they are of detention. Not even something like having a criminal history is necessarily indicative of how likely they are to be detained. And so it's just created a pattern or an environment of fear that people are forced to live in. And it's really devastating to communities.
So what rights does someone have if ICE agents approach them?
Well, if it's happening at home, the basic instruction, the basic right that you have is to refuse to allow entry into your home unless the officers that are demanding entry have a judicial warrant, which generally speaking they do not. So that's the main right. Beyond that, if you're detained outside, you have rights to contact your attorney, and you should as quickly as possible if you are represented, because your legal options can change very, very rapidly upon arrest, depending on, for example, whether you've been taken out of the state or you're still in the state. So those are the main ones.
And given this uptick that we're seeing, what advice are you giving clients right now?
The main advice that we're giving clients right now is to have what we call a family preparedness plan, which means having individuals and in some cases the legal instruments in place to make sure that loved ones, especially young children, have a trusted, caring adult to take care of them in the event that one of their caretakers is unexpectedly arrested.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.